So for the last week or so, I have been talking a lot about self-acceptance, willingness to show your genuine, true, raw self to the world. All right? So before I segue into the final foundational piece of confidently speaking in any room, which is going to come really in handy as you guys go to your holiday parties and attend family gatherings over this holiday season, I want to take a little bit of a detour right now. We're going to talk today about how to deal with Grinches and just haters and angry people and people that aren't necessarily responding to you as the most accepting people. All right? So we are going to chat a little bit today about a question that has come up quite a bit lately. Not just in my own experience and my own self-reflection and my own real-life observation, but also during my conversations with my clients, my community, my friends, the people that I love. Alright, so what happens when we finally accept ourselves and we finally find the courage to show the world who we are, and we finally find comfort in saying what we actually think, and somebody rejects us? I'm not talking about when somebody disagrees with your opinion. Alright? That's part of life. That is part of having conversations. And that is just a discussion for another time. We can absolutely cover that later. I'm talking about when you put yourself out there and you're met with unkindness. So whether that's in the form of dismissal or belittlement or disrespectful or judgmental remarks, shit-talking, mockery, what have you. Alright? In the past, before I truly accepted myself, my knee-jerk reaction to people who reacted to me this way was to think, well, what if they're right? Followed by a long period of allowing their malicious words to quiet my voice, become my narrative, and decide how I continue to go about my life. So let me know if you can relate to that, right? Rejection hurts. Putting yourself out there only to be met with unkindness hurts. Speaking your truth only to have somebody shit all over it hurts. Being who you are only to have somebody mock you for it hurts. I get it. I have been there so many times. More times than I want to even, recall right now. Okay? All of these things hurt. But just because somebody responds to you with unkindness, just because somebody rejects you, mocks you, belittles you, tells you you're wrong, gets nasty with you, doesn't mean they're right. In fact, it doesn't mean anything about you, your experience, or your perspective. When somebody shits on you, it says a whole lot more about them than it does about you, okay? So I'm going to share 3 things that you guys can kind of use to reframe when somebody attacks you, attacks your words, attacks your character, alright? So when this happens, first of all, it tells us that the other person is having a shitty day, feels shitty about themselves, or both. And here's how I know this. Somebody who feels good about themselves and their life, somebody who feels confident in their own viewpoints and their own ideas, does not attack other people. I once heard on a podcast by Trent Shelton, I've never met a happy hater. So the way that I perceive that is that somebody who's actually content with their own life and their own self does not have the time or the energy to attack other people, right? Somebody who's actually happy and content and enjoying life is too busy living their own happy life to waste their time, to waste their energy being nasty and attacking other people, all right? So Second of all, you cannot control what other people say to or about you, right? We all know that. You have no control over how other people respond to you, but you absolutely, hey Christine, thanks for tuning in. You absolutely have a choice over how you respond to their unkindness. So this is something that we work through deeply inside of Mastering Conversations, which I'm going to talk about with you guys in a couple minutes at the end of this. But if you're watching this, I want to challenge you to ask yourself some questions the next time that you are faced with a nasty person. So I want you to ask yourself, did I speak my truth? Am I showing up as my genuine, authentic self? Am I acting in a way that aligns with my core beliefs and values? If you answered yes to all of these questions, you are acting in integrity. And you need to just remember that your truth does not need to change just because somebody else disagrees with it. Your character does not need to change just because somebody else doesn't appreciate how awesome you are. As long as you feel good about who you're showing up as and what you're saying, you really do not need to respond, react, or do anything differently. Just keep being you and own it, okay? And if your answer to any of those questions that I just asked is no, well, that's a topic for another discussion, and let me know in the comments if you'd like me to just kind of go on a riff about that. But let's tie this all together with my third point. You are under no obligation to respond to their hateful remarks, but if you do, I highly recommend responding to hatefulness and unkindness with love. So like I just said, you are in control of how you react, and that includes whether you react at all. So obviously there's nuances to this depending on the circumstances and the role of the person who is speaking to you unkindly. Some troll on the internet is easier to completely ignore than your partner or a colleague or a friend. They probably need to be dealt with at some point, right? But regardless of the details, if and when you respond to unkindness, responding with hatred or spitefulness resolves absolutely nothing for anybody. Because as I said earlier, somebody that goes on the attack is feeling some level of powerlessness, frustration, negativity towards themselves and their own circumstances, right? So if they actually felt good, they would not be attacking you in the first place. Alright? So if you feel called to respond to their unkindness, you get to be in charge. You get to steer the conversation. You get to rise above it and lead with love. So in the case of responding to somebody in your life, if somebody says something nasty, I want you to consider swapping out a fuck you or insert whatever insult, which I know can be really tempting, trust me. Swap that out with, hey, I hear you are feeling upset about something right now, and I'm sorry about that. Are you open to sharing why what I've said has made you so upset? Right? In the case of some nasty troll on the internet, so somebody who really doesn't really matter, you could swap out like, hey, you're a pathetic loser with no life, or why are you attacking, like, fuck you for attacking me on the internet. You can swap this out with something along the lines of, hey, it sounds like you're having a really hard day since you felt called to insult me on my content. I hope tomorrow is a better day for you, and I wish you a happy holiday season. So you see the difference here? In both cases, choosing to react to other people's rejection of you from a place of love and kindness instead of a place of hurt and anger is always more productive. They may never respond to you. They may need a little bit of time before they respond to what you're saying. But the latter reaction is always in integrity with the beautiful version of yourself that you want the world to see. Right? So, if you're still with me, thanks, Christine. I'm glad that this was a great reminder for you. If you're still with me, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here. I hope that this little heartfelt message found you well. and I hope that it helps you with the chaos of the holidays. I thought about sharing this more exclusively as like a mini webinar or something, but in the spirit of the holidays and with the stress of year end and cold weather, I felt that this little riff could really benefit a larger audience. So if you know anybody who's been fending off a lot of Grinches lately or just needs a little encouragement to keep being their beautiful selves no matter how nasty people get, please do not hesitate to spread the love and share this with them. Alright, before I close out, I do want to mention that this is just another example of the work that we do inside of Mastering Conversations for Shy Introverts. That's my signature program. We go a lot deeper inside that program. For another example of some of the work that we do, be sure to watch my previous live from last week. It's called Story Time, and it's all about reframing your insecurities. I used the example of my own hearing loss to just illustrate how I was able to flip my own insecurities on their head and turn it into a blessing in disguise. So since I believe that the way that we show up in our conversations is very reflective of how we feel about ourselves and our own circumstances, the work that we do inside of Mastering Conversations goes way beyond surface level communication skills. So my job is to help my students feel confident as fuck in any room, and to do that, we have to work on how we respond to other people. In particular, the people who don't react to us the way that we hope they will. Unfortunately, the more that we put ourselves out there in this world, the more likely we are to encounter people who don't take to us kindly. And so in order to prepare ourselves for the occasional negative encounter, and I promise you these encounters are occasional, we try to understand why other people would receive us in a less than positive light so that we can choose how to respond to them. So as we discussed here today, when they attack your character and their truth, it usually says more about them than it does about you. So if you are ready to work with a mentor who's been where you are now, which is feeling scared of rejection, feeling scared that people might get nasty with you, to being somebody who is confident to speak her truth in any room and who is unafraid to put herself out there, let's have a quick strategy call. You can book a call via link in my bio or DM me the word conversations, and at the very least, you will walk away with some insight that you can implement immediately or that you can start implementing at your next holiday party or whatever. But I hope this was helpful for you. I hope that you learned a little something, and I would love to hear from you in the comments. What did you learn? What should I talk about in my next live? I'm going to try to do these weekly for you guys. And yeah, I hope this was helpful. Have a great rest of your Sunday evening and have a great holiday season. And I'll see you next week.